Chapter 2. Once again, Pom was left behind with the elderly and the children of her village while the kids her age were out on a hunt. Usually, she could grin and bear her sister's orders to stay put, but today was not that day. Pom aggressively weaved a new fruit basket. The last one was worn so thin that when Nabri tossed an average-sized squash into it, the gourd ripped straight through, landing on Pom's big toe. She cursed the basket then, and she cursed it now as her fingers cramped. Pst. Pom. The voice belonged to Frias. He crouched at the edge of the hut's opening and waved her closer. "Aren't you supposed to be with your Ossar?" Pom asked as she set the basket down and cocked a brow at the boy. "As soon as you reached the age of 10, you were placed in the spiritual care of an Ossar. They taught the youth how to manipulate Dikya through meditation and mantras." However, at her sister's request, Pom never received an Ossar. She said Pom would never need to learn such things. The elders obliged. "She thinks I'm having a vision by the elder tree," Frias chortled. "We're gonna try to spear some fish. You wanna come? Nabri and the Ossar won't be back till sundown, you know." "Oh, I know," Pom said as she stood and rubbed her aching hands on her smock. "You don't have to tell me twice. Let's get out of here before I die of boredom." Frias grinned. "Make sure to bring your lucky pendant. We need it. Grows with us and you know how terrible a shot he is." Pom flashed the pendant at Frias. It hung from a loose cord around her neck. She always had it on. Pom was no stranger to sneaking out. She grabbed one of Nabri's extra spears, the one she didn't like. It was old and unbalanced, but it would work. Frias and Pom kept their heads low while they made their way through the trees that surrounded the village. Eventually, they came upon a small clearing where they were greeted by a boy and a girl, Grow and Low. They both had bushy brown hair and identical dimples on their cheeks. It wasn't a stretch of the imagination to assume they were twins. "You escaped," Low said with an excited grin, before pulling Pom into a tight embrace. "I know. We might actually catch some fish," Pom said, shooting an ornery look at Grow. The boy shrugged with his usual wide smile. There wasn't anything in all of Epirah that could get under the pair's skin. They were always so cheerful. The four walked a while further before hearing the crisp running river. The breeze was cool, chilled by the surface of the water. Pom inhaled the fresh scent of moon moss and whisper lilies. Serenity swept over her as she exhaled, forgetting about the agitations of the day. No. Nabri couldn't hold her back out here. After a repugnant hour of spearing attempts, the group tossed their weapons on the bank and cooled their bare feet in the water. It wasn't long before Grow and Low were splashing each other in their merry way. Pom walked into the river until it lapped at her knees. The water was frigid during harvest season, but she welcomed the cold. She raised her hands in the air and gave a mighty stretch, while twisting her hips. Just then, she saw Frias staring at her. When their eyes met, he glanced away. Feeling vulnerable suddenly, Pom's hands shot back down. She crossed her arms and stared at the clear water as heat flooded her cheeks and ears. "So stupid. There's no way he didn't see you do that." Pom swallowed her embarrassment down hard and sucked in a breath before making her way to Frias. "Hey," she said, proud that she didn't stammer over the word. Frias gave a nod and averted his eyes. She and Frias had been best friends their whole life, but things had gotten weird lately. Every so often, there were these awkward silences and annoying tension between them. Sometimes it was annoying. Pom just wished things would be normal again, but sometimes it felt good. Pom quickly stamped the thought from her mind. "How's your mom?" Pom finally spoke again before sitting next to Frias on the grassy bank. "Feeling better, I hope." Her friend's eyes softened as he looked upon the water. "Much better, actually. Nabri and Ragam are amazing. I don't know why they won't let you use your own career." Before Pom could answer, a booming voice broke over the group, making everyone freeze. "What are you guys doing?" It was Nabri. "Crap." Pom tried to make herself small behind Frias, But it was already too late. Nabri and Ragam stood over the pair, just a handful of paces away. Nabri squeezed her wooden spear handle tight as she glared holes through her little sister. Pom felt her stomach turn. Frias, grow low. Your Ossar are waiting for you in the village. Ragam's voice was as even as it always was. Nothing ever stirred that man. Their faces fell as they scurried away. Pom might have noticed Frias glance back at her if she wasn't so stark still from Nabri's venomous gaze. I can explain, Pom began, holding her hands up as she stood. No, I don't think you can. Why can't you ever just stay put? Nabri closed the distance between them. Don't you know what could have happened to you? Nothing ever happens to the others, Pom pleaded without thinking. Something was changing inside of her. It was getting more and more difficult to obey her sister. There was a severe pause before Nabri answered. Pom. You're different from them. Heat flooded Pom's chest. Only because of you. Before Nabri could speak again, Ragam appeared before the pair. His steps were almost silent as he glided by. All seems well enough, he began. Your sister and I were just about to search for Korea in the caves. Would you mind accompanying us? Pom's face was fiery. She didn't want to go anywhere with Nabri, but she knew Ragam wasn't really asking. He was demanding. She bit the inside of her cheek before giving a stiff nod. Nabri did the same. Ragam was one of the few people Nabri listened to. Ragam led the way as Nabri and Pom followed reluctantly, side by side. The sun was dipping in the west as the breeze shifted. After half an hour of walking, Nabri's voice finally cut through the silence. Do you remember what Pom means in the old tongue? Pom blinked as she thought, blessed by the 9 Valhi? That's right, and every day you prove to me the favor they have of you. Pom pursed her lips. She decided no answer was the best answer. However, she wondered what her sister was so afraid of. The caves covered Pom's skin with cold pricks. The only other time she got that sensation was when she visited the elder tree, though she didn't visit very often, just to retrieve Nabri or Ragam. Ragam said the Korea attracted such large amounts of Dikya to the caves that some people could feel the power physically. Every time Pom mentioned she could feel it, Nabri would scoff and wave her off. Dismissed again. Nabri caught a short, fat bird with an arrow just in time for dinner. Pom and Ragam prepared the bird in mostly silence. Every so often, the occasional crack of the firewood would interrupt. After eating, the sky turned dark as the sun sank out of sight. Indigo and pink splashed the horizon. The caves were especially dark, the best time to search for Korea. The stones were plain enough by themselves, but Pom had her enhancing pendant and Ragam had a mantra that was used for finding the way. When used together, the Korea would glow with fabulous hues of white or subtle blue, like a clear summer's sky. Natural Korea would last as long as nature permitted, but when people manipulated Dikya through the stones, they only lasted for about 30 days before cracking and becoming black. The black stones were forbidden. Once your Korea expired, you had to bury it in the elder's hut. Nobody was allowed access to any of the forbidden stones. Okay. Let's pack it in, Nabri said, as she stuffed one last Korea into a bloated pelt pouch. Ragam and Pom did the same. They found around 8 stones in a 3-hour period. Pom was small enough to fit into a remarkably cramped cavern. She writhed her way out just in time to catch up with Nabri and Ragam. Nabri smiled at the girl and patted her head. Her anger had finally receded. Something about the Dikya and the cool caverns gave off a feeling of serenity. However, as they neared the mouth of the cave, the tranquility came to an abrupt stop. What's that smell? Pom asked as she sniffed the air, quickly slapping her hands over her mouth and nose. She couldn't see any stars above. Plumes of smoke and black clouds shrouded the sky. Pom watched as Ragam's and Nabri's eyes widened. They looked into the distance toward the village. Her heart skipped a beat as she finally saw what they were looking at. The dark sky above the village danced with hues of red and orange as embers licked the tops of the trees. Hot air carried the odor of burning hair and charred pelts. Pom would never forget the acrid scent of that night. In fact, she would have plenty of opportunities to waft in it as time went by. It was the breath of death,